Hello and welcome to my heart project, the podcast Meditation and Healing. My name is Marcus and today I have the honor to present you the interview with Tamal Krishna, which I've had in the summer of 2019 at the Bhakti Festival at Schweibenalp, Switzerland. Tamal is a Bhakti Yoga teacher, a shamanic teacher and many other things. He lives in the mountains of Peru and I had a very deep and fascinating dialogue with him about my 6 essential questions. So let's go. Hello Tamal, welcome. I'm very happy to speak with you. My first question to you is what means meditation for you and how do you meditate?
Yeah, I think for me most essentially meditation means remembering, recollecting, recentering, coming back to the truth, because the scenes are always changing, no? We're moving around and the different scenes are changing and different circumstances come. And so it's easy to get spread out, it's easy to lose focus, it's easy to become distracted. Not that the world is a distraction. The world is perfect. But it's easy to become distracted from the center, where everything makes sense. So for me meditation means recollecting my intellect, the will and vision of my consciousness. The will, the active part of my consciousness, to bring it back to the center that defines everything else. Back to the heart, back to God. Yeah. Meditation is to remember and then to absorb. In Sanskrit they say avesh. Avesh means absorption. When you're so much, not concentrated forcefully, but concentrated naturally. When you begin to return the consciousness to its natural state and it starts to flow and develop, and without trying too hard, different feelings are coming and different understandings are coming and sacred memories are coming and also relationships are coming and everything starts coming back. The space of life starts to open again and it becomes avesh. It means I forget what I have to do later, what I was doing before. Meditation is how to be absorbed, to be completely, without the mind distracted or divided, or completely present and completely full of identity and relationships and also activity of the heart. But I think, proper meditation is like being in a canoe in a river. You're going with it, it's carrying you, but you're just also acting, but your act is very light. It's not forcing, it's not pushing, it's not imposing, but it's active. It's not just dissolving. For me, meditation is not to become nothing. It's not to become completely passive. It's to be passive in the hands of grace, but active there also. The full polarity of receptive, but also active. If I'm just receptive, I feel like I lose myself and I maybe rest, but I don't feel the satisfaction of being and loving, and the wholeness of my being is not satisfied just by passive rest. I want to rest and be active at the same time.
Yeah, what means God or the divine for you?
I like what the Bible says. God is love and love is God. For me that was the guide for my whole path from the beginning, is I trust in love. And from there it has developed. And the point that my destiny has brought me, the teachers that God sent me to give me more like definition, Because if starting just from God is love, it's like, oh, it's a good start, but it's a bit abstract. It's a bit general, you know. And the more that it can be defined at a personal level, you know, what is the relation, my relation with God? What is my relation with love also? And who am I in relation with God in love? These things need to be defined more. And it doesn't mean like the more that something is defined, the smaller and limited it gets. It can be completely expansive, but with more and more identity, more and more personal dynamic.
Yes.
Love is a good start in general, but for me the path brought me, you know, a necessity for God as feminine. You know, it was a great necessity. But then God cannot be only feminine, because I realized it was the way I was raised with a masculine dictator Godhead was something I just didn't want anything to do with. So I went the other way to Mother Nature and to the goddess. But then who is she without her beloved? You know, I don't want to separate her from who she loves. You know, so by great fortune I got to meet my Gurudev and my Guru Parampara, my lineage, and what was transmitted to me was an attraction to relate with God, who is unlimited, in a definition, a particular way, as Radha Krishna. That God is timeless and eternal, but not an old man with a long beard, you know, but ever fresh, barefoot, decorated with flowers from the forest. And that Radha Krishna, they are one being. God is one, but two, like yin yang. So it's not just a oneness without identity or without interaction. If everything is one, then nothing moves.
Yeah.
But if there are two complements, then they create a dynamic that's always new. And so for me, that God is one, but simultaneously two, masculine, feminine, Krishna and Radha, and that really the interaction between them expands everything that exists. So everything that exists has this like DNA of yin-yang, masculine, feminine polarity. At every level of life there's the DNA of the source, of Radha Krishna, of lovers. So we can be confused, we can be in distress, we can have challenges and things, but like we were talking about meditation. Meditation is like remembering the truth. And when I remember, all this like sense of blockage and sense of difficulty it gives way, and start to see some connection with Radha Krishna in everything. That this principle of life, in some way, indirectly, they are playing everywhere. So for me, God is one and different, you know, one but two, and they have their own space for those whose hearts are very pure and attuned, and who can like belong to the space of Radha Krishna and not be like something foreign there. You can enter the space and be face to face with God in their space. But you can't make Radha Krishna appear in a space that doesn't correspond, like the bathroom, or like this a space of confusion, a space of conflict, a space of egocentrism. They exist, and we can encounter them face to face, but we have to attune to their space and belong to that space, be part of that space by our mood. So they are one, but they are two, and they have their own plane of existence, and yet, like the sun fills the solar system with its light, they are also present in some indirect way at every plane of life. And if we look deeply through meditation, we can see this polarity of their action. And then we start to see, wow, life is so full of variety, but there's a principle that unites everything, and it's finally just the play of God as young lovers. Beautiful love and affection is their only purpose, and if I can meditate and trace that out, then even in this world and full of all the challenges of the present state of this civilization we're living in, I don't feel stressed out. No. It's just to remember and to look deeply, and then to be guided by that principle. And above all, how to participate in that principle, to bring that into the space of my relationships, into the space of creative activities. So it's not just hidden, but how to help that, the principle of the polarity of God and Goddess to become more perceptible and manifest in daily life, in time and space. God is the most beautiful, is Radha Krishna for me, but God is also the entire creation. You know, they are present in some way there, and finally God is how I can participate in seeing the relationship of it all, with Radha Krishna in the center and everything else in its own place, but not cut from the center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And how do you connect with these energies, with these polarities, with the divine you mentioned? Radha Krishna.
Yeah. I mean, I studied and practiced many different mystical traditions before I came to my Gurudev and encountered Radha Krishna, no? So I have different techniques and things that can be inspired by different traditions.
Yeah.
No? The essence is the lineage from my Gurudev, which is this Mahamantra, Kirtan, the sound. Because in the material creation, there's 5 elements that make up everything, from most dense to most subtle.
Mm-hmm.
The closest to the invisible we can get with our mind and senses that are visible is from earth to water to fire to air and to space.
Mm-hmm.
And space has the quality of sound. So sound is the finest element.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like if that sound is transmitted from the heart of someone who has absolute consciousness of what's beyond the senses, but they are in this world and speak, then that sound it's like a thread from the absolute, from the eternal.
Yeah.
And they can share with us this bridge or this connection. So Gurudev, my Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj, he gave me this Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Mahamantra.
Mm-hmm.
And Hare is Radha and Krishna is Krishna, and inside of this mantra is the dance, the polarity of the 2 aspects of God in their love, which also has a polarity of meeting and separation. Like the ocean, the waves rush into the beach, and they also pull out. And when they pull out, they make the next big wave that crashes on the beach, and it expands.
Yeah.
So inside of this Mahamantra, this sound is God.
Yeah.
You know, my senses, my eyes, these material eyes cannot see. But by meditation, recollecting myself to what I've learned, what I've experienced, the consciousness more than the concepts, you know? The consciousness that my Guru shared with me about love and the personality of God. You know, it's a much higher ideal than an abstract energy or just the totality of everything. That God is someone and someone's, and their relationship is an absolute reality. So remembering these things, trying from the heart to remember these things, and to connect with this Mahamantra, this sound. That's the essence. And then there are many, many practices that are helping that, that are nourishing that.
Yeah.
So that it's not just that when I sit down and I chant my japamala, that time I'm with God, and then the rest of the time is cut from that, and I have to just be busy doing things. I don't want to live like that.
Yeah.
So many things, different ways to serve and to remember and to be active. But it's an encyclopedic, university. We're in school to learn all the ways we can to connect.
Mm-hmm.
But the essence must be the holy name. But the holy name with the meditation, with the remembering. Not just, there's a great saint in our lineage, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, and he said you can chant just making the sound, but it's like, blanks, the bullets in a gun like they use in movies, bang, bang, it makes a big sound, but there's actually no bullet, there's no substance. So that made me very cautious from the beginning when I heard that. I don't want to just make the sound, just chanting for music, or just chanting to, use the holy name to try to focus my mind, or use the holy name to insulate my mind from different thoughts so that I feel a semblance of concentration. That's not what I want. I want to chant this holy name, but with the meditation, but the meditation of the heart. How to call up the feelings that pertain to different services and to different relationships, and connecting especially through chanting and remembering together. And then in the daily life, how to expand, how to live in such a way, form friendships and do service projects and things that make a bridge, so that I don't do my chanting and remembering and feel nice and then I have to just go to work or do something else that has nothing to do with that and doesn't let me remember that. I want to adjust my life, make the sacrifices or adaptations that are necessary so that all the time I'm in a favorable circumstance with the people that help me remember and want to chant with me. And we're doing service projects that are also for sharing this internal connection with the world. So connect with God, internal service and external service in a kind of structure. Also very helpful for me. It really helped me a lot in my life. Also my Bhakti Yoga was the practice of the medicine wheel. It comes from the native traditions of North America, South America, but if we look in different world traditions, you can see it in the Druidic traditions and all different traditions around the world. Somehow, from time, hundreds and thousands of generations before, when there was no internet and there wasn't even book printing, people learned at that time from observing nature. And all over the world, human beings had the wise human beings that had a need for truth. They would seek for it, and by having the mood of seeking, their eyes would be more perceptive to nature. And they would start to observe and deduce from nature really important principles about life, about the relationships of life, the structure of life, the relation also between heaven and earth, what is beyond time and what is in time. All these very profound esoteric principles that are at the root of mysticism. Indigenous people, tribal people from ancient times, they learned all that without needing theological studies or books or anything. They just had the necessity of the heart to know the truth. Some calling was there, some grace touched people and called them to be at service to life, Like we have all these painters that paint landscapes and things, and it comes from a profound necessity of the human being to be creatively participating in something bigger than himself. So he wants to paint nature because this is the masterpiece and he wants to be part of it, but kind of in our European modern society we feel separate, so they make a square and they do the painting here. But in ancient times it was just direct. It was how to find my creative participation as part of nature. And with that personal ethic, with this mood of, we say it in Sanskrit, das, I want to serve, I want to give. This opens the heart for guidance and revelation. And people all over the world who were inspired with this mood to be guided, to learn, to be able to give something to this beautiful creation, the creation would start to speak to them. Through itself, through the seasons, through the sun and the moon, the cycles. All of these things are coded within information. There are archetypes, there are patterns, there's a structure of life that has an ingenious consciousness behind it. And people all over the world observing and deducing teachings, realities of the invisible they could understand by the visible. They gave the visible world of nature, approaching with the right ethic, gave them an entrance to the invisible, what's going on behind the scenes. And the more that they could realize what was going on in the invisible, their own internal practices could develop. So externally they could create societies like clans in the shape of a circle, based on the model of nature, the horizons. And internally, the invisible laws of nature they were also living. And this is where shamans started to appear. People that were able to encounter and then interpret for their family and for their clan the deeper aspects of life, which they encountered always was personal. It's not just they deduced it down to atoms and molecules and things. They deduced it down to personalities. The sun and the moon were personalities, you know, heaven and earth and a creator beyond all of it. All of these ancient traditions came to a similar conclusion, that everything is a person.
Yeah.
And there is a supreme person. And many of them came to a conclusion that the supreme person is two, a couple. You know? Even one is dark and one is golden. You know, like the Piroa of Venezuela is a very ancient tribe of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And their deity, you know, there are many spirits of nature and the relation with the earth and the rivers, and they have a personal family relation with the whole environment.
Mm-hmm.
But the parents of the environment and the parents of the people and of everyone is Teheru and Paruna. It's a youthful couple. God is a youthful couple, male and female, and one is dark and one is golden.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They never heard the Vedic scriptures. They weren't told who Radha Krishna were, but by a relationship and the right ethic with nature, they were guided deeper and deeper and deeper, and nature is actually speaking.
Yeah.
And finally you go deep enough and there's something universal that nature has to say.
Yeah.
So the medicine wheel, the structure of the directions, and then verticality, the world above and the world where we are and the hidden below, this makes a sphere, which is like, we say it looks to us from our modern day like, okay, this is a primitive or indigenous, very simple model of life. But actually this is a yantra, you know, a sacred geometry that was discovered all over the world by the wisest people who were actually pre-Kali Yuga, you know, in a higher state of purity and consciousness than we are now. We're very proud of our learning now, but we're actually pre-primitive in our actual relationship with life. We're like we're not just subhuman, we're living in a sub-animal way because we destroy the environment. There's no symbiosis in modern man. We're not in balance with nature, whereas what's so-called primitive indigenous people, they don't destroy the environment around them. So we could say, okay, they're at the animal level. You know? If we had a prejudice, we could say they're at the animal level, because animals are actually quite in perfect balance, symbiosis. But if we are proud of that and we call the tribal people animal, we're actually sub-animal, because we're not in alignment with nature at all.
Yeah.
So actually what looks very simple, where there's no airplanes and no iPhones, you know, is actually a more elevated kind of civilization, because the basis is on the invisible first, what nature is teaching. And so they understand we have to live, like Prabhupada would say, simple living and high thinking. If we live as simply as possible, whatever, we can also use modern conveniences and things, but whatever is not going to block our clear relation with nature, because nature is going to teach us the structure of life, the laws of harmony, and if we go deep enough, nature is going to teach us about God. That God is finally Radha Krishna, or we call him Varuna and Teheru, or whatever name comes. But nature is Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam. You know, it says in the Vaishnava scripture says that Mother Earth is the wife of God. You know, so if you love your mother,
Beautiful.
you know, it's good for your relation with your father. And also, like, just really simply, we only know our father based on our mother's word. You know, everyone knows when we were born, we came from the womb of our mother. No one can deny. You know, this is the child of this woman. But who knows who the father is? Maybe she's married, but she might have a secret lover. Therefore, we depend to have a relationship with our father. We depend on trusting and listening to our mother.
Yeah.
So all over the world, from ancient times, people discovered God by listening to their mother. People discovered absolute reality, as personal identity and personal relations beyond time and space with God, starting from an ethic of service and a sacred relation with Mother Earth.
Yeah.
You know? And the very simple, like yantra, like the zip file, the sutra that contains all of this wisdom that appeared all over the world, is this medicine wheel.
Yes.
The sacred wheel. It's very simple. It's a yantra, but it's a living being. You know, Like in the Vaishnava tradition we have deities. But we don't say that this is a statue that represents Radha Krishna. This is a sacred form that has been installed, and the presence of God is there, and by relating with the deity, the Murti, I am relating with Radha Krishna. And they will reciprocate, and I will know. They will inspire me, they will wake me up when it's cold, and something will start to develop.
Yes.
So this sacred wheel, the medicine wheel, it's a living being, it's a Murti of God as life in its wholeness. But life is also God. God is also the totality of things, with variety inside.
Yeah.
So this, for me, has been very important. How I connect with the divine is through the chanting Hare Krishna and this internal, most profound vision that my Gurudev transmitted to me about Radha Krishna and the sound vibration. But to live that, to integrate it in my consciousness in a complete way, and to integrate it in my relationships and in my life and in my creative contribution to the world, the basis of this medicine wheel, which is like the key that comes from Mother Earth, is necessary for me.
Yes.
Mm. I could say a lot about that, but
Okay.
yeah, basically these two things are very important to me. The bhakti yoga of Radha Krishna in particular, and this wisdom of nature. We say shamanism, but shamanism in its essence, nowadays you go in any New Age bookstore or anything and you can see a lot of stuff about shamanism. But 9 out of 10 minimum is impersonal, or like sahaja, some kind of astral projection, or all kinds of weird stuff. And I don't mean just like the New Age Europeans that are trying to culturally appropriate indigenous things. I mean, even in indigenous cultures, people that are born in these lines, because it's Kali Yuga, things have degraded. You know, paramparas have become weak.
Yeah.
You know, the grandchildren may not have the same integrity as their grandparents. They may give up the personalism and the mood of das, of service to God and to nature and to all life, and they start to enter like a power trip or some. But really, shamanism in its most essential sense, actually, for me, it takes a clue from India, from Sanskrit. It's a word in Sanskrit, shaman. Shaman means reconcile. So shamanism is, in any tradition, it doesn't mean just feathers in your hair, or any tradition. You can be a monk in a temple and do this function of harmonizing, of reconciling. Where life is, this is why the medicine wheel is the completeness of life with variety. Achintya Beda Beda, one and different. And wherever something is fractured, we're taking one part and rejecting another part. All my life is in the spiritual world with Krishna, but here this world is all illusion. That's a fracture. There's a division. No? So now part of my identity is that I'm that, and part of my identity unconsciously is that I'm not this.
Yeah.
So I now have two identities.
Yeah.
No? And I cannot be whole like that. So healing, shamanism, healing means reconciling, recollecting, gathering back all the things that have been fractured and divided and compartmentalized in conflict with each other, and coming to a state of having a complete identity as a person, as a sangha or a clan, a family, have a completeness as a human society that has different types of lineages and traditions and different languages and cultures, how to preserve the variety, but have the reconcile so there's not division. Healing at the level of the body of human society is like the ultimate purpose of shamanism. Is not just to blow smoke on someone and take away their rash or their like snake bite.
Yeah.
This is a very like microcosm vision of healing work. The real vision of reconciling is how we can bring human society back into order with nature, who is automatically helping us in our relation with God. So that we're not split our body and our soul. Our soul is our identity, but we have a body and we shouldn't be fighting it, or hating it, or negating it. We should also love and honor it. You know? If Mother Earth is Vishnu Patni, the wife of God, and our body is made of the elements of the earth, you know? If we have a problem with this manifestation, we have a problem with God's wife. We have a problem with our mother, and it's going to be hard to have a clean and complete relation with our father. this is the ancestral vision, is that life is a weaving. You know, if you pull the thread here, something tightens or unravels over here. Everything is related. So we have to have a perfect integrity in all of our relations. And it's not all the same. It's an art, you know. Prema, Maitri, Kripa, Upeksha. There's an art of how to relate with everyone, but how to have a personal relation in the appropriate ethic. It's the art and science of the variety of life. But what unifies it, I am Das. I am the servant of every other living being. I am the friend and the family member of every other living being.
Yeah.
But I will relate with each one in the way that is most effective and specific to the definition of the relation.
Yeah.
You know? So there's one ethic that unites everything. I want the welfare. I want to participate in the welfare of every living being. But then also to see the definition of every relation so that it doesn't merge. So this is, it's a high science. How we connect with God is how we relate with everything in the whole creation is implied. Yeah. You know?
Where lives the soul?
Yeah, I heard in something from the Bhagavad Gita what I like a lot.
Yeah.
You know? That the soul, even though it's not material, you know, so material things can be measured with time and space and what's not material. But if the soul has no limit, then that means a definition, you know? A definition is what defines.
Yeah.
You know, the first shape is the circle. When you draw a circle, it defines. Now there's a being, this shape defines what's inside and what's outside. And that's actually quite amazing. Now this is a being, and it's such a beautiful thing, just a circle. So the soul also, to say that the soul has a limitation, it actually has a very beautiful sense. Because it means it has an identity. If the soul has no measurement and no limitation, then the soul is the same as God and it's just an abstract light. And for me that's not inspiring. To not be myself, to not have my own identity, is not inspiring. To be one with everything is a sense of harmony, but it's not the same as sharing. If you are you and I am me, we can share. There's a dynamic, you know. I can tell you a joke that makes you laugh. I can do something that's new for you, and you in the same way, no? You can give me a grilled cheese sandwich, which I love, and we can give each other happiness. And then a relationship develops and we can expand. If there's no definition, no limitation on who I am and who you are, then we're just in a homeostasis. It's like a stagnant. Okay, there's harmony, but there's no change, there's no polarity. No one's giving happiness to anyone. There's a neutral happiness of not suffering, but without a positive expansion based on variety, there's no expansion, there's no ecstasy, there's no love. Love is sentient exchange. So there has to be, for there to be variety, there have to be limitations. So the soul also, its potential, its higher potential is in its limits. No? Because that defines its identity, personal, individuation, uniqueness. So when I heard in the Bhagavad Gita that the soul is very tiny, you know, materially speaking, but unlimited, and it sits in the heart, in the spiritual heart. This is the center of our being. But like the sun has its sphere, but its light fills the whole solar system. No? So the sun and its light are not different. If you take away the light from the sun, what is the sun? It doesn't exist. If you take the sun away, where did the light go? It's gone. So the sun and its light are two aspects of one thing. So the soul has a position. My soul is sitting in my heart. But it's radiating consciousness that fills to the tips of my fingers and to the tips of my toes. My whole body is full of the sunlight of my soul. I am sitting here, I am the soul. But I'm aware to my whole body. And if I become more sensitive to my soul, more peeling back the thick layers of kind of habitual mind, that we learn from our society that's so externally oriented. If we recover our sensitivity, then I can perceive also the sense of my soul beyond the limits of my skin. Mm-hmm. My consciousness is also in the space around me. And if I enter into relationships with other das, other devotees, other living beings, with nature, then where is the soul? My soul is actually active where the light of your soul and my soul are overlapping. Our consciousness overlaps and it makes it dynamic, and I'm living there also. So actually, finally, more than sitting in my own position as an individual, a higher level of where my soul is in the space of our relationship. Mm-hmm. No? Yeah. It's like if you think of Radha and Krishna. So Krishna is Krishna, Radha is Radha, and they are both the masculine and feminine supreme absolute truth in the Vedic tradition. They are God. Mm-hmm. But both of them are being controlled by a higher force. And both of them, at every second of their eternal existence, are serving a higher force. Mm-hmm. That is their love. Their prema, it says in the scripture that they are like puppets being moved by... They are real persons, and they are the absolute persons. Mm-hmm. But their relationship creates a third being. It's a being. Their prema, their love, is a being. Yeah. And it's the body of this being is Radha Krishna. Mm-hmm. No? So Radha Krishna, everything they do is to serve their love that unites them, to expand. They're the servants of this, and they're controlled by this. And yet it doesn't exist without them. Yeah. But the point is, you have an individual soul, or any being, even God, and another being, two beings, sentient beings. And if they connect with each other in a relationship, a healthy, proper relationship based on the laws of nature and spirit, that produces or makes appear a third being, which is the being of their relationship. Yeah. And that being, even though that being is produced from them, it's higher than them. Yeah. No? So where the soul lives, first of all, my soul lives in discovering my own identity. Yeah. And then it lives in the space around me, my perceptions and things. But where my soul is most active, where it lives the most, where it actually blossoms, my own identity as an individual will expand in my relation with another soul, or my relation with the Supreme Soul. Yeah. Where the soul lives most completely is in yoga maya, in relationship with God or another sentient being, at the level of soul. The soul is not living the most at the level of like crude animal exploitation of each other, no? But at the level of a sensitivity to who we are, a spiritual awareness, and participating consciously in our identity as soul. When personalities are conscious of their identity and proactively are acting from that platform, it's about a will, a desire, a sentiment, and that takes a consciousness. Mm-hmm. Where the soul lives the most is in conscious relationships. Yeah. Like literally the soul is sitting in the heart. But where it lives the most is in the conscious relationships with God and with each other, with the other personalities who are in relationship with God.
Yeah, it reminds me of Rupert Sheldrake. He's a scientist who speaks about morphic fields around us, and it's like fields of consciousness and a bigger energy. It's I don't get it really, but it's you said there's a third energy, this dynamic the third being, yes, which is like the dynamic between the two of us, which is developing. And yeah, that's my little thoughts. My fourth question is, what means enlightenment for you?
Yeah, the first thing that comes to mind is based actually on what I've heard from others and how I kind of if I'm not very proactive, if I'm a little bit lazy, I will take other people's thoughts for... The question is, what does enlightenment mean to me?
Yes.
You know? But if I'm a little bit lazy, I can just repeat an idea that I heard from someone else. It's not really what it means to me. So the first thing that, like, the little temptation I saw was to think, oh, enlightenment means perfection.
Yeah.
Enlightenment means when you're completely spiritually awake. That the process of spiritual, of conscious evolution of consciousness, when it's complete and there's no conditioning and no relative misidentification, when you're completely developed, that's enlightenment. And then I realized, no, that's not my thought. That's something I picked up. And if I take my own pulse, I feel like enlightenment is it's a verb. You know? It's not a noun. Enlightenment is not a thing. Enlightenment it's a verb. It's enlightening. Enlightenment is the process, the eternal process of expanding consciousness. You know? There's a verse in the Ishopanishad, in the Vedic tradition, that says, Om Purnam Adaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. That the Supreme, the Source, is Purnam, complete. And everything that has expanded from this Source has like the same DNA. The complete has produced unlimited completes. So the macrocosm is complete, and inside the macrocosm are microcosms which are also completely complete. Nothing is missing. No? There is a inclusive, and there are the includeds. There's a macrocosm and there are microcosm, but they're one and different.
Yes.
They're different because there's a distinction between macro and micro, but they're one in that they're all complete in themselves.
Yeah.
So enlightenment, if based on the principle of this Om Purnam, that everything is complete, that means I am a microcosm. You are a microcosm. I am a being, an entity. You know? That means I am complete already. So if enlightenment, if we take it in the sense of like, it's the accomplishment, that means, how do I reconcile this distant one-day accomplishment with the reality that I am complete now? No? So it must be a verb, that I am complete and I am expanding my completion. No? And that's enlightenment is the process of actual life. No? Like in the Japamala, I have a Japamala, and the Tulsi beads, and my Japamala has 108 beads. No? So
it's like this.
Yeah, if you count them, there's 108. So it's a mystical number in the tradition of India. It appears everywhere. You know, this is like this is the number that represents the absolute. You know? And I was thinking about that for a long time, and it came to me, okay, 100. You have 108, but 100 is like 100% complete. No, 100% means it's complete. But the 8, it's the same numeral in the Roman numerals as it is in Sanskrit. The 8 is the infinity sign.
Yeah.
So complete, but expanding. 100%.
Yeah.
Yet it's not stagnant. It's not stuck. I don't want to be complete and then stuck. I don't want an enlightenment that's static. It's an accomplishment and it's done.
Yeah.
For me, that's terrifying. I don't want this sacred path that the grace of God and Guru has awakened my heart to is so wonderful. And so grateful for the privilege to exist and to exist consciously in this sacred path. And the process of it expanding is so fulfilling that I don't ever want it to stop. My heart cannot believe that God, who is so amazing, has given me the chance to exist and the chance to walk this path, would stop it one day. And for me, 100 without the 8, and enlightenment as a static accomplishment is a stop.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, now that makes me think of like Judeo-Christian images of heaven where I'll sit in the clouds and I'll play a harp and I'll just sing hallelujah for eternity, I would go mad. Can you imagine? I would rather come back to this world and like play games and go to university and like climb mountains and jump off waterfalls and fall in love and have my heart broken. I would rather be in this world and suffer birth and death if it's progressive than sit in the clouds in a stagnant eternity. No?
Yeah.
That sounds horrible to me. Yeah. And it doesn't match with like the inspiration I feel about what God is, who God is. He's playful and dynamic and like the supremely creative.
Yeah.
No? Leela. He's doing Leela, play. How can it? No, I can't accept. So enlightenment must be the process, starting from the present. I'm complete now. I'm not broken. I'm not sick. I may have, there's things to work on. There are like, there are challenges on the table that are part of the game. You know? And it's perfect. It's not to complain about that. It's not to feel shame or disconfidence about the things I have to work on in my heart. And it's not to think, it's just a game so I have nothing to do. No, it's like, wow, I'm totally into it. I want to do this work. But I have to start from the basis of complete. I am enlightening right now. I am full. Nothing is missing, but I want more and more and more. And even when I realize the fullness of my eternal form, and I'm in Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world with Radha Krishna, with God and Goddess face to face, it needs to be new every day. And that's what I heard, is that Radharani, when she sees Krishna, she's like, who is this boy? You know? If Krishna is walking in the forest and she sees him and she's completely astonished by his beauty, she's completely attracted spontaneously, they've been together for eternal time, but it never gets old. But if between them there's a tree, when he passes behind the tree for just a couple seconds, when he comes out the other side, she thinks, who is that boy? Because his beauty is completely new, and her heart and her vision of him is completely new. There's nothing stagnant. Therefore we chant 108 times this Mahamantra, because Radha Krishna, they're complete and perfect, but they're expanding it every second. It's completely new. That is actual reality. So enlightenment has to be a verb. You know?
So beautiful.
It has to be a permanent process. And that reconciles time and eternity. You know? I'm in time, and time is doing something expansive, but it's also I'm living in eternity if I'm already perfect. Which is different from imagining that I'm a big guru and I have perfect consciousness to guide everyone, but I'm perfect in the sense of my existential being. I come from Krishna. I'm Das. He's Purnam, I'm little Purnam. I am perfect. There's work to do, but only because it's his Leela. But I had to start from that. I am perfect. And I just want more of it forever. That's enlightenment.
Yes.
Is the life. Life is enlightenment.
Okay, we'll stop now with the interviews. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to know what's your personal mission here on Earth.
Oh wow. Me too. Yeah, that's the big question though. I have a great idea. By great fortune, I feel one of my greatest blessings in my life is that I actually know a whole lot about that. You know? Because I spent many years on the sacred path as like a seeker, you know? Seeking, trying to make the connection. Who am I? Kehami? Why am I here? What am I for? And I feel like that's the real mercy of God and Guru, is that they engage us. You know? They show us what we can give, what we can do. And more than anything, we can start out with this idea, like, or the spiritual path, I need something, I'm missing something, I need healing, I need truth, we feel like we need to take something, we need to receive something. But this is just like superficial. If we look deeper, what we really need and what we really want is to give something. I want to be part of it, you know? I want to be part of it. So yeah, for me, my great grace in my life is to know at least the fundamental ingredients. You know, like if you have red, yellow, and blue, primary colors, you can mix them and make all the other colors and you can paint anything you want. So I don't say I know everything, all the details of my mission on earth, my purpose, what God and Gurudev want from me. But I have the primary colors. You know? I know there's internal aspect, and then a manifest aspect, and that they should be friends. They work together. Internally, what my Gurudev, my lineage, the flavor of love for God as Radha Krishna, as this youthful divine couple in the forests, the sacred eternal forests of Vrindavan, is my favorite thing. It's like what I'm most grateful for, and what's the most important to me, and the most also defining of who I am. This is really important to me. And maybe other people have other moods. There's so many infinite variety even in eternity. So I don't want to be like an evangelist or a colonist, to go out to people and tell them, you have to worship Radha Krishna. It has to be like this for you because it's like that for me. But I know that there are people who don't know about Radha Krishna, but that is their heart's nature. Like me, I had no idea about Radha Krishna till I met Gurudev. But when he awoke something in me that I was like, that's where I belong. That is my place. And if I didn't have someone in my life to water that seed, that sleeping seed, I would never have known who I am and what I love the most. I didn't know. So internally, the most essential aspect of purpose for being on the earth is to participate, praying to be guided by Gurudev and those who can see what I can't see, because I'm just stumbling around on this earth. I'm just like a human, ordinary person stumbling on the earth, and I can't see what's inside the hearts of others. But I want to be useful, to be able to transmit an attraction to those who have that destiny. If there are people in this world that their heart was created to love Radha Krishna, and they don't know, for me it's really important to participate, that they can be awakened to who they are. Not to be told what to think. Not to be colonized and evangelized and made to be a believer in someone else's belief. But people who that is who they are, but they don't know it. And beyond that, it's not just about my relation with Radha Krishna and others who have a relation with Radha Krishna. It's every jiva. Because Radha Krishna, they have other forms, as Sitaram, also Shiva Shakti are their forms. In the mystic Christian tradition you have Jesus and actually Mary Magdalene. Many people have realized that they are actually a couple. Everywhere God is, in some form or other, if you look deep enough, is a couple. Male and female, masculine and feminine. All over the world, I think that people who go deep enough in a personal quest to know God as a personal relationship and not as an abstract principle of a law of attraction to make me wealthy and fortunate on the earth, but really who want to love and serve, they look deep enough and they will find God as a couple. I believe that. That's my conviction. And it would be a different shape and a different flavor for different people of different destinies. And I'm interested in all of them, because all of those couples, whether it's Sitaram, whoever, Paruna and Teheru, that's my Radha Krishna. For me, they show themselves as Radha Krishna in this form, in this space of Vrindavan in a particular relation. But there's only one God, and that God is infinitely available to people of different flavors and inclinations. So it is my Radha Krishna in another tradition. That means every jiva, everywhere, I want to be useful. I don't expect, it's not like a delusion of grandeur that we're like messiahs, that we will be the one to deliver all jivas, but it's to participate somewhere, to be part of the organism that serves all jivas, all living souls, to wake up to their relation with their divine parents, with the divine couple, with Radha Krishna, with their mother, their father, the divine couple. However each soul relates. Lakshmi Nrsimha, Lakshmi Narayan, who knows? Also forms we never heard of. The Bhagavatam gives examples of 20-some different avatars, forms of God. And then after that, it says, actually they're just like waves in the ocean. They never stop, you can't count them. So, like the Hare Krishnas or people who study the Vedas, we can have an idea there are many forms of God and I can number them. This is completely mad. Nobody knows. There are unlimited and infinite forms of God, and there are souls that correspond to those different forms by destiny. And I don't know what your relation is with God, but I want to be useful. I want to pass my time on this earth to be useful in making this connection of you and God as you are meant for each other. You know, and everyone. So to work within time and space, I want to be part of creating a human society that has these values, and this the values of one and different, that there is one inclusive principle, that we are all das, we are all servants of God. But there's also difference. We don't have to all put on dhotis and play mridungas and put on tilak and have the same one culture. And for me, that's another nightmare. The whole world with one culture, it's a nightmare. I don't want that, and I really don't think that God wants that. No, God wants there's one thing that's true for everyone, and that's bhakti yoga. I believe that. Everyone who looks deep enough will find love. Is the point, and love in a personal way, not love in an abstract, passive meditation on light way. Peace and love are two beings of their own definition. A lot of times people call it's all love, man, but they're just talking about peace. They're talking about peace. They're not talking about love. Love is a dynamic between sentient beings. Creative, expanding. So, I want to develop my own relation with the deity, the divine, as they have revealed themselves to me and as they attract me as Radha Krishna. And I want to be, my life on this earth, active to create a space, a social infrastructure at the level of culture and civilization that will make it as easy as possible, as normal as possible for future generations to grow up like you become a child and an adolescent, and you coming of age, you come into your own identity, you start to individuate. But part of that normal process shouldn't be just biological and psychological, but spiritual. That also children should wake up step by step to their own relation of destiny with God in a particular personal form. So, I understand it's my responsibility and my good fortune to be on this earth to serve that mission, to create a social infrastructure that will make it as normal as possible for future generations to grow up, waking up in time, in harmony, the biological, psychological development in harmony with the spiritual development.
So we just have 2 or 3 minutes. Would you like to be a little bit more specific about the social structure? Just a little bit?
Yeah, it's a big strategy, it's based on the medicine wheel and the yantra of life. Everything that will work at the level of human structures, we have to be, my conviction is, we have to take guidance from the structures of nature. Because there's an invisible world of spirit that is the source of the natural world. So the laws of nature are based on invisible laws of spirit. And then human beings, we create our own laws, and those laws should be based on the laws of nature, which are based on the laws of spirit. If we just make up arbitrary laws, or we create a democratic society where we discuss in a circle what we think we want to do, but we're not observing nature and listening to be guided. And it's not just nature. It's establishing a relationship with nature of such respect and personalism that she's Vishnu Patni, that this is the wife of God. That through this relation, we can also have access to the personal relation with the consciousness of the spiritual laws. Because it's one thing to learn from the tradition and read the scriptures, the concepts. There are many people that have been around for decades and decades, a whole life studying concepts of meditation, concepts of different spiritual values. But the consciousness is where the potential is. There are many people that can repeat, even brilliantly, concepts, but the consciousness is a bit thin. If we can develop this ethic with nature, this pre-verbal, pre-scriptural ethic with being guided by nature, she will give us access to the consciousness of the spiritual laws. And then when we read the scriptures, these concepts we'll have access to the consciousness because we have learned the ethic of being guided. It's not to throw out the scriptures and just look at the trees, but it's to come back to our roots and be humble in front of Mother Nature as a structure for society, And as a guide, the first guide, like your mother is the one that teaches you to eat, to walk, to talk. Mother is first guru. And then you can have higher gurus that teach you PhD physics or whatever. But your first guru is your mother. If you skip that, you can't even walk and talk. How are you expecting to learn PhD stuff? So there's a necessity to have a guru relation with Mother Nature, which is not the all in all, but is the foundation that teaches the ethic that will give us access to the invisible when our heart is in the right way, and give us access to the consciousness inside the scriptures, so that we don't just become proudly repeating the concepts, but there's no medicine, there's no power in an empty concept, no matter how brilliant it is and how much we can use it to fill up our minds so there's no room for the confusion we're afraid of, because we can explain everything, but that's not consciousness. That's just conceptualization, stuffing the head with conceptualization so there's no room for ambiguity. Doesn't mean we understand and are living any of it. Just means we're afraid of ambiguity and mystery. We're afraid to be guided, actually. The ethic. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole philosophical structure, but based on that. Learning from nature, the structures of nature, which are based on the structures of spirit. Human beings can create societies and be guided in their own relationship dynamics, and everything can... This medicine wheel, for example, is a yantra that encapsulates the entirety of the laws of nature. For me, it's a necessity in my life to work with this medicine wheel and to chant the holy name of Radha Krishna. But I need to work with this wheel to put my own psyche in order, my relationships in order, my projects in order, and finally to put sanghas, and then sanghas that are like a sangha of sanghas.
What means sangha?
Sanghas, the clan, the family. It's not just like the father, the mother, and the child, but the family of people who are dedicated to the same spirit.
Yes.
People who have the same lineage, the same ideals, who come together as a family, not based on blood, but based on spirit, an identity that they share, which is not like a cult where like no one has an identity in who we are, that we're part of the group. People who have their own identity, but something at the level of their personal attraction is common and unites them. They make a spiritual family. And then you have, if that family can be friends with another family that has their own identity, like this is a family that loves Radha Krishna, this is a family that loves Sita Ram, this is a family that loves Jesus and Mary Magdalene, or Jesus and Mother Mary, whoever. But if these families, these sanghas, these circles make a big circle, a family of families, now you have a Mahasangha. And now you're starting to build the infrastructure for a human civilization. That's one based on das, on service, but different based on each clan has its own sacred fire, its own identity of a special flavor.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much. It's such so much to say. Thank you. I'm just grateful that you shared your inner heart and your vision with me, and I don't know how to say. I'm just grateful. Yeah.
No, thanks for asking. I was really inspired to share the space with you and to think that we're sharing with somebody else we don't even know who they are. But no, my heart is involved and my vision is involved in this. But really, this is included inside the heart of my guru, the heart of my lineage. You know? This is the vision of God. This is the vision of Shri Guru. And we were just little lucky to be participating in that. So there are people who we don't even know that have a relation with God and with Shri Guru. And the idea, the inspiration for me in doing this service with you is that maybe God and Guru have something to transmit to their relations. You know, people we don't even need to know. Maybe we become friends later. But even if we don't, it's to make this friendship, the person and their own eternal connection. I felt so inspired that you were motivated to do this work and give me a chance with you. So thank you so much. Huh? I really feel like this morning keeps getting better and better. No, good things keep happening.
Great.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Shri Radhe.